Hello, it's Howard Rheingold.
Okay, we're here with Jimmy Wales, who needs no introduction, and I want to talk to you today about what kind of advice you would give young people or older people who wanted to understand how to collaborate, the literacy or the skill of collaboration. What makes a good collaborator? What do you need to do and know to be a good collaborator?
Well, I think there are several different skills that you need to cultivate to be a good collaborator. Most of them we understand quite intuitively. A lot of what you need to do to be a good collaborator online is basically kindergarten ethics in the sense that it's all things that we've already learned in our face-to-face interactions with other people. And of course, in face-to-face interactions, some people are better at it than others. There's obviously always a difficult person that you'll meet in real life. But online, on average, we find that you do need to remember it and make a little bit of effort to think about some of those basic things. So one example I'll always give, it's one of the things we talk about a lot in the Wikipedia context, is assume good faith. The idea here being when you see someone doing something wrong, making an error or doing something that looks to be malicious or mean, try really hard to assume good faith. Assume that they're actually trying to do something helpful and beneficial, and that should be your first approach. And it's not always easy because you can't imagine why would someone be doing this outrageous thing. But often it turns out if you approach them and say, hey, I'm glad to see you're trying to help out here, but I don't quite understand what you're doing, or I don't quite agree, but I'm sure you have a good reason. Let's talk about it so I can understand. Often you'll find that rather than being malicious or evil, they have actually just misunderstood something, or they're making an error, or more often than any of us likes to admit, you find out by approaching with a little bit of humility that you were the one who was in the wrong all along in the first place. But that is a really important skill in terms of collaborating with others. It's a mindset that assumes the default conditions are available in order to be able to collaborate. If you are thinking that other people are horrible and evil and the ones you're trying to work with are destructive, your collaboration isn't going to work. And so let's assume that we've at least got sensible people in the room. And then it turns out that's twofold. One, it actually is true. Most people are actually just trying to do something useful. And second, if they were being a little malicious, but you approach them in that benevolent way, they often feel just a little bit embarrassed that they were being mean to such nice people, and they'll turn around. Now, having said all that, there are people who are malicious. And so a next sort of skill or value that I would say is holding firm to certain principles of behavior. So this is a rule that it has a little bit of tension with assume good faith. Assume good faith says, let them get away with being a jerk a little bit because probably they're not being a jerk, or probably you can turn them around. But on the other hand, I've seen many communities and many collaborations fail if they take an excessively libertarian view of the behavior of others. At some point, the group has to get together and go, this guy Joe, we've given him 5 chances, we really tried to help, but truth be told, he's not here to help with this project. And basically saying there is a point at which we will say, certain behaviors just aren't acceptable in the group, and we're just going to have to ask you to leave. And then that leads us directly into the third thing, which is a whole set of values and principles about how to let people down easy. In other words, it's probably best to not say, you're being evil, you have to leave the group, because they just get mad and it's just a big fight. It's just better to say something kind, even if you're making the tough decision of excluding someone from the collaboration, but to say, actually, it seems like what we're trying to accomplish here is different from what you're trying to accomplish. Here's some tips, or here's some ideas of places that you could go where you might find some people who would be more supportive of what you're trying to do. And Sometimes that is just a farce, and you're just doing it because it's the right thing to do, but sometimes it actually is the right answer. That, in fact, the reason there's been tension in the group is that the person, they weren't really, again, trying to be malicious. They just wanted to accomplish something different, and they really should find a different place. So those are three kind of things I've learned over the years the hard way, by doing all of them wrong, multiple times, and sort of realizing, okay, actually we could have handled that better.
So that all of those are, rules and ethics sort of go both ways, how to be a good collaborator and how to get others to collaborate. But I wonder if there's anything more you would have to say about that, how to get others to collaborate, Steph, or how to instigate a project in which people will collaborate enough to reach a critical mass. What the conditions to get that kind of collaboration going?
Yeah, so one of the things that I've learned is, and I got this right by sheer luck the first time around with Wikipedia, which is you have to have a concept such that when people show up with the possibility of thinking about, should I get involved in this collaboration or not? Should I help out here? One of the most important things is that it's immediately obvious what you're supposed to do. That you can immediately get started doing something because you understand what it is you're supposed to be trying to accomplish. My favorite sort of example is to say, if I say encyclopedia article about the Eiffel Tower, everybody knows exactly what that's supposed to be. We may quibble about the details, but we more or less know what we're supposed to do. And if we show up and we see there's only one sentence, the Eiffel Tower is a tower in Paris, we immediately go, oh, wait, actually, I should look up when it was built, and I'll add that. I should get a picture of it and put it in there. I should tell who was the architect who designed it. I should tell the story of how it was. It's immediately obvious how to help out and what to do. And with Wikipedia, it's such a simple, obvious idea. An encyclopedia, everyone understands more or less what it's supposed to be, that it worked very well. Later, with Wikia, we've seen many, now tens of thousands of wiki communities launched. And one of the things that I've come to understand is that that principle is one that is very, very important. So I had an idea for a wiki that ultimately failed, and I called it Campaigns Wikia. I thought it was about helping political campaigns understand the new media tools. And it was going to be kind of a reference work for political campaigns to learn how to use blogs, wikis, Facebook, Twitter, etc. However, the opening statement wasn't that clear, and many people understood me to be saying, this is going to be a wiki documenting all the political campaigns. So we had two completely different ideas of what we were doing. And in fact, because I didn't really give a good, clear explanation, because I didn't really understand it very well, we had more than that. We had 20 different concepts of the initial people, and nobody quite knew what they were supposed to be doing. So people showed up and said, yes, I think it's great. We need a more participatory politics. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here, so I issue one statement of support, and I'll come back in a week and see if I can figure out what to do. And it never went anywhere. Whereas we have very successful wikis on all kinds of subjects. The Vintage Dress Patterns wiki is one of my favorites, where it's obvious. You go and you click on it, and you see, oh, this is people who are collecting vintage dress patterns, and they put a picture of the pattern up, and they discuss it, and it's very straightforward, and they talk about the history of vintage dress patterns and so forth. It's obvious, and so it's successful. So I think that's one of the most important things, is this idea that when you show up, if you know what you're supposed to do, it makes it a lot easier to get started. It's that low barrier to entry, I think, is really important. And moving to a second thing, it has to be a worthwhile goal. But worthwhile can be thought of in a very holistic way, a very open-ended way. Clearly, a free encyclopedia for every single person on the planet, that sounds like a worthwhile goal. That's something we should have. Whereas if we say something like the Muppet Wiki, which is 20,000 plus articles now all about the Muppets, it's a worthwhile goal, but not in that sort of charitable, save the world kind of sense. But it's a worthwhile goal because the people who write it, they love the Muppets. They enjoy it. They enjoy talking to friends about the Muppets. They have certain objectives of what they're trying to accomplish. And for them, as an entertainment, as a fun thing to be doing, it's worthwhile to them. the downside of this is that I've seen certain projects of collaboration fail where the goal it just didn't click with people. It just didn't seem like a goal that they really felt like pouring their heart into. And sometimes you can't tell, because one person's useless activity is somebody else's passion, So, but it is important to make sure that when you're approaching people about it, that you make sure to put it in terms of a worthwhile goal, something people can feel like, okay, I've spent my time doing this. It was a good way to spend my time for whatever reason, either a noble goal or just for fun or whatever it may be.
Beautiful. This is very useful. Thanks. Just what I had in mind, in fact.
Great.